Hi, today's Slice of Life story is from the Slices Anthology, published by the Powell River Public Library. And the author, she's no longer local, she doesn't live in Powell River anymore, but she did for a time, Adela DiUbaldo Torchia. She was the Anglican minister in the town site. She is still an Anglican minister, but just not here. But Adela grew up in Winnipeg. She said in her biography in the book she finds both writing and listening to memoirs to be therapeutic, mind-expanding, and fun. And her biggest passion is for all living things to have their basic needs met so that peace can prevail. Adela's story that was published in this book is called A Dime in My Pocket. Grade 6 was my first year in public rather than private school, and I was eager to be accepted and make friends. A daunting prospect given the differentness I felt in so many ways. In the summer after grade 6, several schoolmates unexpectedly stopped by on a warm summer evening and said, "Ask your parents for 10 cents. We're going to buy ice cream cones at Dairy Queen." This seemingly trivial scene has remained etched in my mind and heart, possibly because it may also have been an invitation to join them in a different way, to be an accepted part of a group of friends who walk around freely on summer evenings, heading to Dairy Queen for ice cream. As I turned the corner into the insecure beginnings of puberty, any positive affirmation was welcome. One of the oh-so-traumatic pre-teen trials I endured was the fact that my mother would not let me shave my legs, so I spent much of grade 6 pulling up my sliding knee socks. We girls were not allowed to wear pants to school in those days, the 1960s. Later on, at the beginning of high school, we wore pants under our skirts to survive the walk across the open prairie field in bitter Winnipeg winter winds. Then it was straight to the washroom to take off those shameful pants and maybe roll up the waistband of our skirts to shorten them in the process. But just as there were pop quizzes, there were surprise skirt length inspections. Every girl had to kneel on the floor, and if the back of her skirt did not touch the backs of her calves, she was sent home in her too short skirt. How strange to remember those girls in a public high school kneeling in front of their lockers. My mother would have been impressed and happily handed each one a rosary had the opportunity arisen. High school was still in the future, though, on that warm summer evening of the Dairy Queen invitation. Unfortunately, asking for 10 cents for ice cream was quite out of the question in our household, where every penny was squeezed until it bled. I told the schoolmates I could not ask, and they were confused. Why not? How to explain the almost strangling frugality in which we lived, the never being extravagant or wasting a dime on anything unnecessary? Like the time I asked to join brownies. It's not necessary to spend the money. Ice skates? My father did eventually bring home a used pair, but they were too small. I remember once my mother bragging to my aunt, who had only sons, that I would not be compelled to use those leaky old linen cloths from the old country, but instead would luxuriate in proper feminine hygiene products. Surely such extravagance meant cutting corners elsewhere, like for ice cream. A few years later, I felt rich by comparison. I was working at the drugstore, wearing my blue work smock, and always had a dime in my pocket for a chocolate bar, if I wanted one at coffee break. Ice cream cones had gone up in price, but I could afford those too, given my starting pay of 50 cents an hour. And oh, the immense pride my parents took in the fact that their daughter was behind the counter at the drugstore. for all the friends to see. And yes, she was so good at wrapping everything in green paper, the drugstore's way to avoid the expensive bags. It was the place to be. At age 20, my fiance even handed my engagement ring over that drugstore counter. But on that early summer evening, I could not have imagined such wealth and independence. As my schoolmates turned away from my door to go on their merry Dairy Queen way without me, I sensed deep down how much I had just lost by not daring to ask my parents for 10 cents. Or perhaps I had gained by following a different path. Had a dime been more accessible, it might have brought me an entry ticket to a more normal, but ultimately more constricted life. Who knows what small bricks, or even dimes, pave the road of our unfolding journey through life. That's A Dime in My Pocket by Adela DiUbaldo Torchia. Excuse my lips today. Thank you for sharing the story with me, and have a good rest of the day.